Today, Wicomico is home to 39 county-operated parks and outdoor facilities with amenities and a range of programming that's unique to a community of our size. But to tell the story of our department, we have to look back 75 years ago to the end of a devastating war.
General Eisenhower informs me that the forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations. Let us not forget, my fellow Americans, the sorrow and the heartache which today abide in the homes of so many of our neighbors.
What we have now started in the 1940s. The War Memorial Recreation Commission was formed. They did not want to see another statue or something like that to commemorate the lives of those who gave their lives for our country in World War II and previously.
Wicomico County had this vision, which was second in the state of Maryland to establish a Recreation and Parks Department. But what Wicomico County wanted to do, which is unique, is they wanted to have a living memorial. They wanted to build a civic center that would house social and civic activities, and the United Way funded the majority of the $14,000 original budget.
That $14,000, I'm pretty sure, was initially used to hire somebody, and that somebody turned out to be Lauren Rickert.
I was 13 months old when we moved to Wicomico County for Dad to start his position.
Dad told me once that one of the greatest influences on him was a lecture that he heard when he was at Harvard from Albert Einstein in German on the benefits and the necessity for recreation as an important part of social life.
And he was a trailblazer. That's all I can say.
In the summer of 1947, the first playground program was established, and we've held activities in playgrounds ever since.
Well, the playgrounds were in all the different little areas around there. It started out with basically you had a field, a couple of places had pavilions, most of the places didn't have a pavilion at the time, so you had a tree to sit under, you had tetherball, you had kickball, the old sliding board, the old seesaw.
In 1951, the Salisbury City Council and Wicomico Recreation Commission combined efforts to provide lights for the softball field at Harmon Field.
Many years ago, right here in this particular area of Harmon Field, I played fast pitch softball. Yeah, I remember I played third base, and I remember one of the guys named Hank Wallace. You know, it was like the hot box, and he had a line drive right to me, and I just threw my glove up and caught it, and everybody just kind of yelled, and you know, some of those catches you just remember forever.
You would come here and we would play our youth soccer games here in Salisbury, and most of the time they did them under the lights, so that was a big deal, under the lights playing soccer when you were young.
Then, in 1959, after 15 years of effort, the Wicomico County Civic Center was built as a living memorial.
It was a key asset of Wicomico County. It hosted international tennis tournaments and concerts and things that would have never been able to come to Wicomico County without that building.
Leading up to the late 50s, facilities and programs were segregated by race. But accompanying the civil rights movement in the 60s, our department made steady strides toward progress.
My memories also at the Lake Street Playground were like, wow, we used to compete against each playground. We had softball, we had tetherball, we had box hockey, we ran track.
In 1969, a piece of Maryland legislation would enable our county to expand its park system tenfold.
Program Open Space was the 800-pound gorilla that enabled us to acquire so much property that we have for parks and recreation purposes.
Just close your eyes and think, we wouldn't have a Henry Parker Sports Complex. We wouldn't have Pemberton. We would have 30 acres at Pemberton with houses all around it, including Bell Island. We wouldn't have these things if it wasn't for Program Open Space.
Dad got a series of grants almost every year through that period, and he used that money to buy what would be considered today prime real estate.
Our first civic center, though, was completed in 1959. And then in 1977, it burned to the ground.
They were cleaning the wood floor or resurfacing it, and a spark from the resurfacing machine ignited the fumes, and within minutes it had gone all the way up to the ceiling and had completely consumed the building. And my sister Elizabeth was there. She went over there with Dad, and he was standing there, and she told me later that was the first time she'd ever seen him crying. And I think probably right there he decided to extend his stay and seek to have that building rebuilt.
By 1980, a new civic center was built, and Lorne Rickert retired after over 30 years of serving Wicomico County and passed the torch to Director Gary Mackis.
When you come in here, take a job like this, the very first word that you got to have is the word vision. You got to have vision. Parks and Recreation has just, it took off with a leap and bounds, you know. And like I said, Gary needs a lot of respect for what he had done because he had a vision.
Throughout the 80s, under Mackis' leadership, Wicomico County Rec and Parks saw exponential growth, adding several major parks to our park system. In the 90s, a conversation began about bringing minor league baseball to the county.
Frank Perdue loved baseball, and he felt we needed a minor league franchise here in Salisbury. I was sitting with the county council the day of a public hearing, and they weren't too eager. They were worried about whether they're going to be able to afford this. My bet is that there wouldn't be a sufficient amount of boats to go along with Frank's wish. And there was a public hearing that night, and I never saw so many people at a public hearing demanding they want minor league baseball.
The Civic Center set up, I think, 300 chairs. The county council was up on the stage. Well, the 300 chairs were filled, and they started setting up more chairs and more chairs. Well, one of the last people to walk in was Frank Perdue. Well, when he walked in, it was like the Pope had just walked in, because everybody applauded Frank Perdue. I turned to Bill Carey, who was sitting next to me. I said, Bill, we're going to have minor league baseball in Wicomico County. I can tell you that right now.
High fly ball deep in the left field. Taylor comes back into the corner. Warning track. Whoa! Turn! Watch it go! Ball game!
Perdue Stadium opened in 1996, and in the first year of hosting minor league baseball in Salisbury, we won the championship. In 1997, Wicomico County was one of the first counties in the nation to merge all of the recreation and parks and tourism departments to be operated under one director. The president of the county council in the 80s, Henry Parker, was one of the instrumental people in the department's success.
He loved Wicomico County, had no children, with the possible exception of Gary Mackis.
I think the county council revered him, his colleagues revered him, people in the state revered him. He was the president of the Maryland Association of Counties.
What the county was able to do was contribute to the quality of life of its citizens, and that's the reason we're all here. And Henry knew that, and he instilled that in a lot of other people.
Years later, the Wicomico County Athletic Complex was renamed the Henry Parker Athletic Complex in honor to his unwavering commitment to the county. Another big factor in our growth was our relationship with the state of Maryland.
With program open space, waterway improvement funds, that was 75% of the cash we needed to build almost every park came from that.
Another key to the department's growth was having dedicated community leaders. One such leader was local activist, coach, playground director, and community organizer Billie Jean Jackson.
Well, my father started a track team. Everybody from everywhere came to run track, and we ran across all 50 states.
He taught these young kids that ran for him true values of competition, diet, to realize that anything's possible if you put in the effort. He was the ultimate role model with that.
In 2003, North Lake Park, acquired in 1961, was renamed Billie Jean Jackson Park.
There's a lot of good memories here, and not only about my dad, but other people. You know, my father didn't do this by himself. He didn't, and he would tell you that. When this park was named after him, he deserved it. You know, not because he was my father, but because he was a father of the whole county.
As the county park system expanded, the Parks Division followed suit under the leadership of longtime park superintendent Nick Meyer.
When I first started in 1983 with the department, we didn't have hardly anything in the budget. And Nick, our foreman, superintendent of parks, he had us straighten nails, and we'd go over to the landfill and get lumber to do projects. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Almost every department will hire architects, engineers, and then to hire a general contractor to build these facilities. We did it all ourselves.
The expertise and craftsmanship of the department staff kept development and maintenance costs low, enabling more expansion. But the real magic of the department comes from the community's spirit of volunteerism.
Everything was a barn raising. You name a park, I'll give you a barn raising story.
One example of Wicomico County's ongoing history of volunteerism happened in 2003, when George Vickers and a group of veterans spearheaded the construction of a tablet memorial at the Civic Center. Nearly all of the labor and material of the memorial, valued at around $200,000, was donated from companies and individuals across Maryland to honor the lives of Wicomico County veterans. In 2014, after 35 years, Gary Mackes retired as Director of Recreation, Parks, and Tourism, passing the torch to Steve Miller. And over the past 5 years, the department has continued to grow, developing and implementing a master plan to open a new regional park at Pirates Wharf.
What residents have asked us for consistently is trails, water access, those types of things. That's what people want. And what a great place for that. In a special park system, this is going to be the next big one. And we're really excited to provide public access. That's really the goal.
As COVID-19 swept across the world in 2020, our access to parks and recreation was more important than ever. And despite the crisis, our community came together once again to support the construction of Field 7.5 and an inclusive playground at Henry Parker Athletic Complex.
We raised, literally in the midst of a pandemic, we raised $500,000 of private funds. So we got state funds and county funds, but $500,000 in a pandemic. And what the project is, the playground is an inclusive playground. It's designed specifically for kids of all ages and all levels of abilities to be able to play together. And it's about kids forming relationships, and that's what Field 7.5 is about.
Wicomico County and our department is special for many reasons.
When we look at what the previous generations have done, it's remarkable. And I'm humbled just to see what they've done and what they've passed to us and the responsibility that they've passed to us. And that goes to us as staff, but it's also for our community. So many of these things were done by volunteers and by community members in these separate communities in the county as a whole. And we can't do it by ourselves. We need everybody, and that's what's made this thing so special for so long. And I'm excited about rolling up our sleeves and doing it for this next generation.
This is a quote from Dad when he was recounting his time in the department. He said, "It has been aptly said, during working hours, we make a living. During leisure hours, we make a life. For it is during our leisure hours when we invite our souls that we make life truly worth living."